Hello everyone. So one of my subscribers on made a comment on one of my videos about how I should maybe make videos about some basic boxing 101s about how to wrap your hands, how to throw a basic punch, maybe some basic exercises, which I thought was a pretty good idea. So this is part one. So today all we're going to do is talk about how to wrap your hands as we have hand wraps here. There are many ways to wrap your hands. I think even when you wrap your hands for an actual boxing competition or boxing fight, it's even different at that point. By no means, this is not the end all or be all of how to wrap your hands. This is how I do it. That's comfortable for me. I always suggest that when you go take your first couple lessons, that you do not wrap your hands ahead of time. That you wait until you get there before you wrap your hands. This because the gym's going to show you, or the coach or the trainer's going to show you how they like to wrap hands. So you kind of get an idea how they like to do it, and pretty much everyone modifies it a little bit for their comfort and not style, but their comfort and how they easiest way for them to remember how to do it. So the first thing you will notice is that this is already rolled up. So when you first buy hand wraps, they'll be rolled up in a package like this. I think I mentioned in another video that I tend to, before I go to boxing, I tend to roll up my hand wraps because it's a little bit easier for me to wrap my hands once I get there. And I'll show you after and if shortly how I roll up the hand wrap so that it's easier to put on my hands. But one thing you want to make sure is that when you start, you want this seam here, you can tell, to be kind of on the inside when you start to wrap. So you want this seam to kind of lay on your skin when you start to wrap, and that makes it very easy to wrap. So there are probably many different ways that people wrap hands and many different variations. This is one I find is easiest for me to remember, kind of how the club taught me how to do it. And I find it's, most comfortable and the quickest way for me to do it. So when you start, you have to make sure that this seam, this big seam, is facing on the inside or downside, as I like to call it. So I call this the rule of threes wrapping. So you go 1, 2, 3, right? Then you wrap it around your thumb, like so, like a blanket. Then you do 1, 2, 3. Then I make a fist. I bring it up and over in between the first two fingers, make a fist. Make a fist. Right? Now that I've done between all, fingers, then I do 3 times again. So 1, 2, 3. Now here, a lot of people tend to put a little bit of extra padding on the knuckle. I like to come down the hand a little bit more, and I also especially like to do a little bit more on my wrist because for a little bit more support. Because when I first started, as a lot of people do, you don't have great punch technique, and you punch the heavy bag, and you tend to hit it incorrectly. And I actually hurt my wrist a little bit when I first started. So I got into the habit of adding a little bit extra padding and extra wrapping to my wrist. So voila. I know there's some wraps that there's a lot more space here, there's a lot more gap here. I just tend to find this the most comfortable, easiest way for me to remember to wrap, the rule of threes. Also, easy to get in and out the glove, especially during classes, because you do take your gloves off quite a bit to drink something or maybe to wipe your brow. So I know there's a million different ways of doing this, so people have kind of very strong feelings about this, but this is the way that works for me and I find easiest to get on. So now after class, you probably have taken off your wraps and they're probably in some sort of state like this, sitting in your bag, or actually this is probably a better example how your wraps end up in your bag. So I just want to take a minute to show you what I do before I get to class, and I find it just makes my life a little bit easier. I like to wrap my wraps before I get to class, so it's important how you start. So there would probably be some logo or something on the wrap, so you want to start with that face down. You don't want to start face up, because if you start face up, then the voco is on the wrong side when you finish. So, and I'm not going to do the whole volume, so I tend to just roll it up like this. You know, as tight as I can. You won't get it as tight as when you first got out the package, or unless you really, really stretch it, but you don't necessarily have to. But you get a pretty good tightness. So yeah, I won't show the whole thing because it's quite boring. So, but you get an idea that if you do this before you get to your class, you will find it's easier to wrap your hands, because it's easier to wrap it when it's in the ball, as opposed to if you kind of let it flail loose, you try to wrap your hands. At least for me anyway. For other people it might be different. So hopefully this has been helpful to those folks who are just starting boxing. Again, this is boxing basics, just hand wraps. Next time we'll go over basic fighting stance. Thank you all, and speak to you soon.